you've missed the latest trans sporting highlights, I'm here to fill you in. There's been some winners, there's been some losers, and as you can imagine, there's been some bigger losers. Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend. This is where we call out lies, hypocrisy, corruption, and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters because truth conquers. You know, things have been a little depressing for me lately. Trump took office and he makes the announcement like, hey, there's only two genders. I'm like, what's going on here? That doesn't make sense. And then he announces men can't play in women's sports. Ruins my day. And technically they can. It's just schools that allow it lose federal funding. So good, wholesome, inspiring headlines of men in women's sports triumphing over women, if not beating the living crap out of them. They're just few and far between nowadays. So luckily, we've got some highlights for you and also some lowlights for the trans community in sports. But over in Europe, there's a country, it's a Muslim country. They lock people up for saying words. It's called the UK. So two men, turns out, faced each other in the women's pool championship match. Out of all the ladies in there, the two men who are now real women, the same as any other woman, except a normal woman was never a man. Aside from that, little bit of a difference. These two women in the championship match are just like any other women. And you can see the headline here. Two men will face each other for a women's championship title at the Ultimate Pool Women's Pro Series event 2 tonight in some stupid town in the UK. Harriet Haynes and Lucy Smith, ladies and gentlemen, both trans-identified males. Wow, you can tell this is not a liberal headline. Calling them trans-identified males feels heavy to me. It's obviously untruthful. These are women. I don't even know why we would call them trans women, because that like takes away from their not God-given womanhood. But anyway, two men pretending to be women beat all female competitors to take the spots in the women's final event. And Harriet Haynes, congratulations to him. He proved himself to be the best woman in the tournament. Now, we'll take a look at a little article. You're not going to believe this. There was some controversy. Now, hitting some highlights. First, there were some statistics. Some 59% of Americans oppose allowing transgender athletes to play on sport teams that match their gender identity compared to 19% who support it. And that leaves, roughly 22% of people who apparently just don't give a crap. Like, yeah, I don't care. Well, I've got better things to do. To me, the most telling part of this statistic, obviously the majority of Americans oppose men competing on women's teams. I still don't get it, guys. Just misogyny. But only 19% of Americans support men being able to pretend they're women and then play on women's sports teams. This is a 2025 statistic. If we rewind back to 2020, when even most people in the freedom-loving community back then were too afraid to speak their mind on this. And if you did speak your mind, cancel culture, transphobic cancel culture campaigns were coming at you. I got my fair share of them. Didn't stop me. So nowadays, only 19% support it. And you also have to wonder, out of that 19%, who is actually legitimate supporting it and who just feels pressured to say yes. But only 19 people support it. Times are a-changin', aren't they? I would guess back in 2020, only 19% of Americans would have at least been courageous enough to admit that they don't support this. Times are changing. Here's what people are saying. Pro pool player Harriet Haynes told The Independent in December. So Harriet's the guy that won. I've never really considered myself a trailblazer. I'm just a woman who is trying to live my life. And all I want to do is just be treated the same as any other woman. I work in an office environment, treated like a woman every single day. You don't know what people say behind your back the rest of my life. This playing pool is the only aspect of my life where I'm not. And of course, you probably know her, Riley Gaines. She says on Twitter, LOL, they really took May the Best Man Win to a whole new level. Congratulations to the better cheat, Mr. Haynes. So Riley Gaines is a woman, yet she is being a misogynistic man here, exuding a lot of toxic masculinity, suggesting that this guy that beat all the women was somehow cheating because he's a guy. Riley Gaines, come on now. Enough of the toxic masculinity. So keep in mind, only 19% of at least Americans actually support this. this. Former British Olympic swimmer Sharon Davies, who often campaigns against trans girls and women competing in female sports, she campaigns against men competing in women's sports, was among those who shared the news. She wrote on Twitter, "This is bloody ridiculous and grossly wrong in every way. These sports hate their female players to do this." Yeah. Journalist Piers Morgan, preposterous. Why anyone supports this cheating BS is utterly beyond me. Another comment. One person wrote, "Wait, but seriously now, why are there gender divisions in pool? There's no inherent male advantage there." That's incorrect. By the way, some people commenting on this story are like, dude, this is pool. It's not like boxing, MMA, or sprinting where physical strength gives you an obvious advantage, where men would obviously have the upper hand. This is pool. So what's it even matter if these guys are competing in the women's division? Well, first, on principle, they have a women's division. If it absolutely didn't matter, there wouldn't be a women's division. There is a women's division. If it was just like, hey, open, this is the open division. Doesn't matter, men and women, like, cool. The more trans people, the better. It would just be more fun to watch. I guarantee that. However, the perspective of, well, it's pool, strength doesn't necessarily give you an advantage, even though many people say it does because it gives you more power off the break. There was someone I was listening to on a podcast, and they were talking about the neurological differences between men and women and brain wiring as it relates to pool. And this person, according to me, according to how you're hearing me, was saying, yeah, men actually do have an advantage in that. That's why the best pool players in the world are men. We'll get back to the video in just a second, but first I want to tell you about red light therapy, what it does for me, and how I incorporate it into my life. I actually have my Bond Charge Supermax red light panel right by my desk at all times, where I'm getting extra doses of red light throughout the day while I'm working. And personally, I've been feeling such a profound difference from red light therapy, where I would normally just do my morning stretches in front of my Supermax red light panel, that I wanted to get more out of it. That's why I moved this bad boy up to my desk so I can do even more red light therapy throughout the day. Not to mention the fact that red light therapy also helps with wrinkles, headaches, healing, relaxation. It even helps with low testosterone. And in fact, I love the anti-aging effects of red light on my skin so much that now I'm doing nightly sessions with a red light face mask. Red light therapy has absolutely earned its spot on the Mount Rushmore of the health and biohacking worlds. And Bond Charge makes it easy with a variety of red light therapy devices, from handheld devices, the red light face mask, all the way up to the red light Supermax panel. To easily bring the profound benefits of red light therapy into your life, go to bondcharge.com/JPReacts. And for 15% off everything Bond Charge offers, use discount code JPReacts. And all Bond Charge products are HSA, FSA eligible, offering you up to a 40% tax-free savings. That's bondcharge.com/JPReacts. Now, I gotta get back to the video. Nonetheless, this person goes on, I totally understand the debate in regard to contact sports, field sports, and strength-based sports. No question about it. But pool? Why does it even matter? For starters, there's a women's division. And another added, there shouldn't be men's and women's categories in billiards competitions because it's a game of skill that doesn't rely on strength. Ladies and gentlemen, the strength difference between men and women, shockingly, is not the only difference between men and women. Podcasts I was listening to talked about how, biologically speaking, primitively speaking, the way we're made, men are meant to be hunters, which means our ability to focus on things is actually, like visually focus on things, can actually be more acute, tends to be more acute than women, which of course translates to pool. But nonetheless, that's the gist of the women's championship in pool in the UK that involved no women. Great! But things played out differently in a fencing tournament in the US. And you might say, JP, this is amazing. I care so much about both pool and fencing. Tell me more. Female fencer Stephanie Turner speaks out after taking a knee and refusing to fight her trans opponent in a regional tournament at the University of Maryland. So doing the translation for you, Stephanie Turner, she is a female fencer. She was meant to face off against a male fencer who has long hair and says, I'm a woman. And on principle and or safety concerns, Stephanie says, I'm not going to face that person. I'm going to take a knee. Now, what happened to Stephanie is going to piss you off. But first, let's watch her in action, taking a knee in a non-Colin Kaepernick style. I would dare say this is a good cause to take a knee.
There's nothing for me and there's everything for him, because I have no choice as a woman, as a female, in where I compete. I am a woman and I have an athletic disadvantage to men. Initially, I told them that I was refusing defense because this person is a man and I am a woman and this is a women's tournament and I refuse to defense on principle.
That's a pretty good principle. I think being a principled person is one of the most effective ways to feel meaning in life, to have purpose, and to be on purpose. If you don't know what your principles are, you better start inquiring pretty quickly. Just like the old saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. A principled person, they don't fall because they're rooted in their principles.
I was a little bit confused, thinking that I was maybe hurt. And I said, no, I am refusing to defend you because I'm a woman and you are a man. I have much love and respect for you.
I'm not a man.
But I will not compete against you. His response was, okay, but there's a member of the board of directors here and he supports me. There's a policy that says that I'm a woman and I'm allowed to compete in the women's tournament. And if you do this, you're going to get black carded. And I said, I know.
And Stephanie did get black carded. Here's the consequences that'll probably piss you off. Was out of that tournament and banned from competing in the next tournament because she refused to compete against a guy in a women's fencing tournament. Is this absurd? Yes. Are you and I surprised hearing this? Probably not. We've been hearing these stories for years now. And as absurd as it is that this still happens, let's do take note and appreciate this is happening a hell of a lot less in 2025 than it was even back in 2022. Now, my favorite trans sport is dog shows. And you saw this in the opening clip, and if this doesn't inspire you, you better check your pulse. Trans dog goes viral after flawless role at human dog show. That makes sense. Praised by adults. Can't believe people are cheering for this. How would you not cheer for this? It was a good rollover. So let's play by play this whole thing. It's inspiring. I'm kind of more impressed by this than I am by like Michael Jordan. Rolled right over. Right over. That's amazing. Down, over. By the way, these dogs over here, somehow they're clapping. It's like, we're actually dogs. Dogs don't clap. Fuck. It's kind of hole in our system, isn't it? Oh, shake. This is great. Now, I'm less interested in the dog. You might be thinking like, human competing in a dog show. How stupid. Yeah, but you got to think like a dog. This person probably is dumber than a dog. Therefore, him, her, it, being able to be trained to roll over. Quit thinking about yourself. This is probably a big accomplishment for this person. What else in life do you think they've accomplished that's bigger than this? Probably live in their parents' base, probably live in a cage in a basement somewhere, probably sleep in their own feces. So learning to roll over on command, I remind you, big accomplishment for you? Probably not. For this person, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It truly is amazing. But I'm less interested in that dog than I am in this guy wearing a skirt. Like, what's inside of his head? He's like, dude, I'm not dumb enough to think I'm a dog, but I want to get really good at training people who are dumb enough to think they're dogs. So I would love to hear a sit-down interview with the dog trainer on a podcast, preferably long form 3-hour podcast. Love for Joe Rogan to have him on, and we just understand the psyche of this individual. So in trans sports, there's been some winners. The men that won the women's pool championship, congratulations. There's been bigger winners. Stephanie for taking a knee in fencing, and the fencing governing body for banning her. Then I would say they're the biggest loser. But honestly, the biggest winner is this flawless performance of a guy that thinks he's a dog successfully rolling over. If this isn't what America is about, I don't know what is. I'm more proud to be an American, knowing people like this are out there, and also being grateful. There's at least a dozen people watching this, and I'm proud of those people for knowing this is how I'm going to be spending my Saturday. I'm going to go watch people roll over on command. It's great to be an American, ladies and gentlemen, where we have it so good that we can devote our time to going to human dog shows. We live a very comfortable life. We all have our challenges, but God is good. We're born in America. You know you're living in a good country when it's so safe that people can act as dumb as you can imagine, if not, in this case, dumber than you would have imagined. Let me know what you think about this update in trans sports in the comments below, and I'll look forward to seeing you on our next video. Until then, stay free.